Hello, everyone, and welcome for this brand new session on PCI SSF, the PCI SSF standards. And let me tell you, it's been quite a journey. I should say that we've been doing this for like 4 years now, and we never had such an overwhelming response. Never. And as a matter of fact, let me be honest with you and say that last night I had to upgrade our GoToMeeting account to accommodate the number of attendees. I kid you not. In all these 4 years, this is the first time we had got such hundreds of people just there. And that shows the amount of interest that has been there, that is there in PCI SSF. The need for having a very strong, software development, a secure software development process in place for people who are into payments and even not into payments, because the standard is good for everyone. And so to that end, I really appreciate the PCI Council to have agreed to send our dear Nitin Bhatnagar. As every one of you knows, he's the Associate Director. Welcome, Nitin. It's such a pleasure that you are there and you are there with us for this program to answer all these queries that's been put up. And guys, what we did as a part of our process, we put across, that you can send across your queries and ask us on VISTA InfoSec.com. Ask us at VISTA InfoSec. And you know what happened? So many queries, and so much confusion, if I might say that, but it's good. People need to get their doubts fulfilled out, and then we discussed it out with the council, and Nitin was extremely gracious in agreeing for doing two sessions. We just finalized that, what, Nitin, 2 days back, I guess, 2-3 days back. Yes, so he'll be there. So we'll shortly on the 18th of August, we'll be having the second session on 18th and 19th rather on PCI SSF, because there is so much information to be given and there is so much queries that is being bouncing up and down. So keep your mind open, keep your books open, and thank you again for being there. And let me just take you through the initial presentation. On what we are doing now. Okay, this is what was there. We made just a brief presentation. Don't worry, I'll not take up more time, just like 2-3 minutes to give you a brief and then move on. So this is Nitin Bhatnagar. As I was just writing to the council on that is, we couldn't have asked for a better person. I really mean this from my heart. I know almost everybody in the industry. I couldn't have looked at a better person than Nitin Bhatnagar, who could have represented India on the PCI Council. He's there. He's a gem of a guy. I've called him sitting in the airport at 2 o'clock in the night for him, and it's like afternoon for me because I'm stuck somewhere, and Nitin is picking up my calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's the sort of guy he is. And he's been extremely supportive, extremely helpful, not just to me and as a friend, but even to almost the entire industry. I'm sure that almost the entire industry would agree the value add that Nitin Bhatnagar has brought to the table. We couldn't honestly have asked for a better person. And he is like the perfect guy who could be there. His profile is there. He's there as the Associate Director for India for the PCI Council. And he works with the PCI Council directly. And he works with all the payment brands, regulators, merchants, service providers, key influence decision makers, all the meetings with RBI to put forth the concerns of the industry. Sorry, I just scrolled a bit too much. Okay, so as he has so many decades of working. He has worked in more than 50 countries, 60 nationalities. He possesses a bachelor degree in computer science from the Bundelkhand University, which is Jhansi. He's done his master's in cyber law and information security from the IIT Allahabad, and he's been interviewed by almost everybody from ISNG to BBC World News, CNBC Awas, CNBC TV 18. He regularly writes in Economic Times of India and the Times of India, Hindustan Times. So he is there almost everywhere. And as I said, he really knows his subject exceedingly well. So for a change, I'll be quiet during this presentation. I'll just be asking a few quick questions, and Nitin would be answering. So feel free to put in your questions, but I cannot promise you that I'll be able to answer all of them now, because I have 16 questions, Nitin. 16. Now, so I request you to keep the answers brief, my friend. Otherwise, it'll go on for 2 hours now. Okay, this is what we'll be covering in today's session, because now we have broken up into 2 sessions, my friends. 2 sessions. So today we'll be looking at the SSLC process, and then we'll move on into SSF, but both come under the Secure Software Framework issued by the council. So it's not like we are talking of 2 separate standards, but 2 separate branches. And I'll leave it to Nitin to elaborate on that. I will not take that up. So today we'll be covering a brief on PCI Security Framework, key differences between SSS and SSLC. I'll leave it to him to decide how to put it across. The PA DSS to PCI SSF transition guidelines, applicability, assessment, and there will be a live QA session. So all these things will be covering over here, and what will be the benefit of SSF to merchants, vendors, service providers, everyone. And so we leave it to the industry to come up and ask questions. So this is your moment, guys. This is a live session, and this is being held today and tomorrow also for UK, US. So be there as the session goes ahead. And the speaker is him. Okay, I'm just there to fill in the gaps. So this is due to, as I said, due to the overwhelming response. There'll be second part will be there on the 18th of August on PCI SSF, new security approach to modern payment software, the session 2. So do sign up for that, because we are running short of seats, guys. You know, this time again upgraded, and of course this is for you, and it's free. But do sign up urgently so that we are not, you know, filled to capacity. This time we got filled to capacity. So, and if you have any queries, write to us and ask us at VISTAInfoSec.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. And a brief about our company. Let's take 2 slides. We are basically VISTA InfoSec is a consulting company, and to cybersecurity and all, we've been there for like since 2004. We are ourselves a QSA. We are there as PCI PIN assessors. We are also PCI SSF assessors ourselves, that is, and we are also QPA. We are there in US, Singapore, India. So we work in, now we opened up in UK too. So these are a few of the services that we offer, mostly on SOC 1, SOC 2, PCI DSS, PCI PIN, SSF, 27001, so all these things that we do, GDPR, HIPAA, NASA standards is something that we look on. We are not into any product sales, no hardware, software, anything. And we are there with you end to end, even from the advisory perspective. And these are the few of the certifications that we provide. And certifications for the PCI DSS, PIN, SSF, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, HIPAA, GDPR. These are the few things that we look at. So that's it about our company. And I'll move on directly to Nitin, and we start the session. So Nitin, welcome, my friend. And on behalf of the industry, I welcome you. Thank you again for agreeing to be there, Nitin. Such a pleasure to speak with you again.
Thank you, Narendra. As always, I think you always try to put me up on the ladder, but I will try to make sure that I live up to the expectations that you have set. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nitin. And so let me jump, Nitin, as you're aware.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, for everyone, Nitin is more like a brother to me. So I talk to him in a bit of a casual way, but he's an extremely knowledgeable person. So please look into that. And Nitin, there is like 16 odd questions are there.
Narendra, I can't hear you.
So we'll quickly go through it. There is just too many questions. If it's not done, then maybe you'll have to do it in the next session. And this question, in the first question of the day. So what is PCI Security Software Security Framework and the PCI SSF Secure Software Standard? And even as you remember, even I was confused when this thing first came up. What is the difference? SSF and SSS, Secure Software Framework and Secure Software Standard.
So let me tell you what is PCI Software Security Framework and PCI Secure Software Standard. So the PCI Software Security Framework standard, it's actually standardizes and consolidates the software security principles and practices for payment software and software development entities under a single requirement architectures. So the 2 standards within the SSF are the PCI Secure Software Lifecycle, which we called Secure SLC standard, and the PCI Secure Software Standard, each with a supporting program to manage validations and listing. So both these programs would have their own validations and listing process, and the PCI Secure Software Standard which will supersede PA DSS, and which we're going to discuss further as the primary standard for securing payment softwares. The PCI Secure software standard expands on the key principles of protecting payment applications and data that were first introduced in PA DSS and is designed again to support a much larger set of payment software architectures, functions, and software development methodologies. So this is what is the PCI software security framework and the PCI software secure software standards. Narendra, I think you are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So thank you, Nitin. So as I understand, so one is an overarching standard, and below that there are two frameworks meant for different purposes. So we'll get in the frameworks now. So then, to whom does the SSS Secure Software Standard apply? So to whom will that apply?
So it's a very simple. I think the secure software standard is actually intended for the payment software that is sold, distributed, or licensed to the third parties. So I think these three elements are very, very important: sold, distributed, or licensed to third parties. Now this includes payment softwares intended to be installed on the customer systems, as well as payment software deployed to customers as a service over the internet. Now, the validation to the secure software standard is not intended for software developed in-house for the sole use of company that developed the software, nor it is intended for software developed and sold to a single customer for the sole use of that customer. So that is where the secure software standard is going to get applicable to.
So Nitin, the next question, which is a direct flow through, is that then what about the SSLC in a secure software lifecycle standard? So which companies, what would be applicable to, and what is the objective of these two standards?
Yeah. So now let me tell you first of all why the secure SLC is to whom it actually gets applied to. The secure SLC standard is actually intended for software vendors that develop software for the payment industry. That's very simple. Software vendors who have their software lifecycle management practices validated will be recognized by the PCI SSC list of secure SLC qualified vendors. So probably in that case, if you are a secure SLC vendor, so you may go and validate their software lifecycle management practices and make sure that they are, and that would actually help you in getting listed onto the PCI website. Additionally, the secure SLC qualified vendors will be empowered to perform and self-attest to their own software delta assessments as part of the validation of their payment software products to secure software standards, to product to the secure software standards with which actually will reduce the efforts of assessors involvement or oversights. So in order to basically get a full perspective of this, I think there is a program guide that actually talks about how the secure SLC program is going to work all throughout. So secure SLC and the secure software standards are the two different standards which needs to be looked at or based on the applicability. So as I told you about the secure software standards applicability, if the software has been sold, distributed, or licensed to the third parties, then that's where the secure software standards gets applied. Now for the secure SLC, if you are developing if you have a software lifecycle management process or practices that you have been following, in order to get them validated, you need to use the secure SLC qualified vendors. Now, additionally, what I told in just to summarize is that the vendors who are developing this product or who are actually following the management practices, the best practices for around the secure coding best practices, then or the practices around developing these products, they can even self-attest to their own software delta assessments. That's the major difference between the secure software standards and the secure SLC standard, and why and where who is going to get applicable these standards to.
That's great. So Nitin, can I summarize this in one statement and say that SSLC, secure software lifecycle, applies to a process, and secure software framework applies to a product like PA DSS. Can I say that?
Yeah, PA DSS is not we cannot call PA DSS. So whatever the principles the PA DSS had, it's been just carry forward to the SSF. But yes, the SSF is a new modern software security standard. which we will discuss in our future in our further slides or our questions that
The
you may
next
have.
time, yeah. So then what is the process for evaluating a software to the secure software standard? What is the process for evaluating software to the secure software standard? That is the next one.
Yeah,
Nitin.
so here the software vendors initiate the process by selecting a company qualified to perform a secure software assessment from PCI SSC list of SSF SSR companies, which is you can all the vendors can go onto the PCI Security Standards Council website and they can see the list of all the secure software assessments, the qualified companies who can do these assessments. And probably negotiating any costs and agreements necessary to perform the assessments directly with the assessor company, where PCI SSC doesn't get involved. Then the software vendors and the assessor company will determine the scope of the assessment. That is, what aspects of the payment software should be assessed. That includes identifying all applicable requirements and materials necessary to effectively perform the assessment. Right? Once the scope has been determined and all necessary materials and evidences have been collected, the assessor begins the software evaluation. Now, talking about the payment software evaluation also includes analyzing all security functions, features, and the capabilities provided by the software to determine the software to determine whether the software complies with all applicable requirements. The assessor then prepares a corresponding report on validation, ROV, which details all the requirements tested, the test performed, and their results, and any other opinions or conclusion the assessors may have. Right? Additionally, the assessor shall also prepare an attestation of validation. Similarly, what we used to do in PA DSS, we have an ROV report on validation, and then we have attestation of validation, which both the assessor and the software vendor shall sign, attesting to the results of the evaluation detailed in the report on validation, that is ROV. The assessor then submits both ROV and the signed AOV to the PCI SSC for review. PCI SSC review the ROV, including the test results, vendor evidences that has been provided, and the assessor's opinion and conclusion to confirm testing was performed satisfactorily and all the applicable requirements have been met. Upon acceptance of assessor's material and the conclusions, PCI SSC will add the payment software to the PCI SSC list of validated payment softwares on the PCI SSC website, similar way to what we used to do for PA DSS validated applications.
Wow. Okay, guys. In addition to being a PCI QSA and QPA myself, I just I'm also an secure software assessor myself, and it was such a pleasure to listen to Nitin actually. And I really hope you guys are making notes of what he's saying. It was extremely well summarized, extremely well explained, and thank you, Nitin. That was very, very well put, Nitin. Thank you again.
Yeah, I'll just, for the clarification to my last question, I would just want to clarify something also on the relationship between the secure software standard and the secure SLC standard. Now, the secure software standard and the secure SLC standards are two separate, and independent standards. Let's not get confused here, the audience that you are listening to me. These are two separate standards and independent standards. While having said that, both standards address some of the same concepts. Each standard approaches those concepts from a different perspective. Now, for example, secure software development process in the secure SLC standard, secure functionality and the security features in the secure software standard. Additionally, the validation to one standard does not imply, just wanted to make sure very clearly that additionally, these validation to one of these standards does not imply or result in validation to the other standard. So people may get confused, if I get one, I get second automatically. No. So it doesn't imply or results validation to the other standard or to any other PCI standard. So they are standalone independent standards. They have no, you cannot correlate them. If I have one, I can get second one or second one is already in my, I'm already done with that. So with that said, there is an additional flexibility provided to the secure SLC qualified vendors as part of the validation of their payment software to the secure software standards. Now, the secure SLC qualified vendors are empowered to perform and self-attest, which I also highlighted in my previous point, self-attest to their own software delta assessments with reduced assessor involvement or oversight. More, if you want to really get some more information on this, I think on the software delta assessment, I think you need to reconnect to the program guide of the secure software standard, where you will be able to connect the dots that currently that I've been talking to, or probably you need to reach out to your assessor company who you are been engaging with for your software for the assessments pertaining to these two independent standards. Over to you, Naren.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Nitin. And for a moment, to be honest with you, I thought you forgot, you missed out on saying the last part. I'm so glad you came back with the the delta validation that can be done by a company who's also a software secure license lifecycle vendor, SSLC vendor.
Correct.
So that's a good one. And if you have any queries, guys, you can always drop us a line on VISTAInfoSec.com. So that is something that we can reach out to. We can even forward it to Nitin if required to get a more validated answer. And the program guide that Nitin keeps referring to, you can simply go to PCI Security Standards.org, and the program guides are there. And one of the best things that I love about the council is that all this content, guys, all the FAQs, all the standards, explanations, everything is free of cost. You don't have to pay anything. It is there for complete download. Complete download is available. All right, so moving ahead. Well, so does the PCI SSC, that's the PCI Council, provide a list of payment software that is validated to the PCI SSS secure software standard? Nitin.
Yes, I think short answer is yes. So upon the yes. successful validation to the secure software standard, the payment software is added to the list of validated payment software on the PCI website, which I just highlighted in my previous answer. So I think yes, the answer is short and sweet answer is yes.
Yes, and again, as well said by Nitin, you can simply go to PCI Security Standards.org, and over there, like, you can see a list of the approved PA DSS software. The same way, you can even look at the approved PCI SSF softwares and even the SLC vendors. So in addition to the assessors. So Nitin, can you just before people, because companies use this word in a colloquial manner, so of course I know it's very obvious, but can you just touch upon who's a PCI SLC vendor and who's a PCI SLC SSLC assessor? Many companies even call their assessors as vendors. You know what I mean. So, yep. But in the PCI terminology, these are two separate terms. So PCI SLC vendor is a different organization, and PCI SLC assessor is a different organization. So can you quickly just 30 seconds just touch and we move on?
So I think first of all you need to understand who can do what, right? So when I say two independent standards, so PCI secure software assessor companies and their employees. So secure software assessor companies are independent security organizations that have been qualified by PCI SSC to validate payment software adherence to the secure software standards. Now, secure software assessors are the employees of the secure software assessor companies, like maybe VISTA InfoSec, for example, that satisfied and continue to satisfy the requirements defined in the PCI software security framework qualification requirement for assessors. So they are the one who are eligible or the one qualified to conduct the secure software assessments, standard assessments. And having said that, on the vendor, on the SLC point of view, for an example, a vendor, right? A vendor is a secure SLC qualified vendor as part. So SLC vendor is, for example, you are doing a validation for a product company, and they have their own product. So SLC, if, for example, VISTA InfoSec is a secure SLC qualified vendor. So you have to do that validation for them for the secure best practices framework what they have been defined for their as part of their life cycle of the development of the product. And the delta assessment is not necessary would be done by you, or which is in VISTA InfoSec. The delta assessment can be still done by the vendor itself, unlike what used to be in the PA DSS. So PA DSS, you have to validate it with the with the PA QSA, and therefore the minor changes, major changes, and so on and so on. But here the delta can be done by the vendor itself, and it doesn't require an SLC qualified vendor to be brought into the picture to do the delta assessment. If they want to do it, they can do it. There's no there's no hard stop there, but the vendors still, the SLC vendors can still do the delta assessments.
Great. Thank you so much, Nitin. That was a great answer. And it might sound a bit complicated, but believe me, guys, even I was a bit confused, and I really ragged Nitin on answering my queries on that. But I believe this is one of the best things that the council has done. Because earlier for PA DSS, there was like 17, 18 odd requirements, eligibility criterion. And if you're not satisfying even one criterion, then your software cannot be listed as a PA DSS approved software. So there could be many companies who are giving good software, payment software, but not fulfilling the criterion of eligibility criterion and were not getting listed. But over here, if your company is not getting listed under SSF, at least your company can get listed as an SSLC. So your software development processes are very secure, and you are following the right approach as mandated by PCI Council. So software can be purchased by the payment industry. So it's a great approach. Rather, it's a really amazing thing that the council has broken up between a process and a product. Earlier, it was just the product. So thank you, thanks to the council for that. So Nitin, the next question. So this is what I have asked you also quite a few times. So if you can let our audience also know as to what type of payment software can be evaluated under the SSF. What type of software or what is eligibility criterion for software to get listed under the secure software framework? Over to you, Nitin.
Yeah, thanks, Narendra. I think it's very important. I think that's part of the standard also. But let me try to briefly answer this. So at the time of the program launch when we did this launch of the secure software framework, so payment software eligibility criteria that we have set, and I'm going to talk about that. So the payment software eligible to be evaluated and listed on the PCI website must, first point, be involved in or directly supporting or facilitating payment transactions. Second, and store, process, or transmit clear text account data, and then therefore be validated against both the secure software standard and the currently published module A, that is account data protection, and be commercially available product that is developed by the software vendor for the sale to multiple organizations, which we just highlighted above also when we are talking about what you should be doing. I'm just detailing it, what exactly it covers. The following, I'm going to talk about what is not eligible now, for the validation of at the time of the initial program launch. The payment software that operates on any consumer electronic mobile device that is not solely dedicated to the payment acceptance for transaction processing is not eligible for the validation. At the time when the program was launched, payment software products that are operating systems, databases, or platforms, even those that may store, process, or transmit account data, are not eligible. Payment software intended to use on hardware terminals, not eligible. Future modules are currently planned to support some of these use cases. Software that is ineligible for the validation at initial program launch and will not necessarily remain ineligible. I'm not saying that they are ineligible, but I'm also saying that they're not going to remain ineligible, because we are still evaluating on all these validation, all these aspects, and you may see the new modules added to the new software security standard, and as the supporting program is going to evolve. So these are the parameters that one has to look at before start evaluating themselves or looking at themselves going to PCI secure software assessor for getting their products validated against these particular standards. Over to you.
Great.
Hope this helps.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitin. That was a great answer. Now, actually, just wanted to add one thing. And actually, as a company, we work very closely with the council. And guys, please pay attention to one thing that Nitin said, that as time goes by, the council will add new modules to the entire standard as it evolves and as it matures. And guys, I don't know how many of you are actually aware, but the council uses an extremely very interesting and interactive process for updating the standards. It takes feedback from all the QSAs like us, QPAs, SSF, SSA auditors like us, from the participating organizations, from vendors, from banks, payment brands. And believe me, guys, it is such a beautiful session. And they make all the queries look so important and you feeling so important and valuable. Believe me, I've been a part of this, even for 4.0, the development of 4.0, even there I'm a part of it. They listen to everything you have to say. There is an active discussion that happens that goes on for hours as to why this, why that, why should we include this, why not include that, everybody. And then they come up with a structure. Then there are multiple RFCs. So whenever these new modules get updated, it will be a true reflection of what the industry actually needs. It will not be like a group of old guys sitting somewhere in a room and writing down theory. No, this is actual people who are practical guys, practical, who have seen the features, who have suffered or enjoyed the benefits or whatever be the case, and then giving a live feedback to the council. So stay tuned for the future updates. So moving ahead, guys. So Nitin, as a follow-up to your earlier point, so you said that it applies directly to application that supports or facilitates payment transactions. So then what about applications that do not, let me repeat, that do not directly involve in authorization or settlement, such as fraud monitoring applications? What about the validation for that? Because they are also an extremely important part of the payment ecosystem, Nitin.
Yeah. So, Narendra, I think very pertinent questions. This is a very pertinent question. I think the payment softwares that are involved in supporting payment transaction, for example, that you just highlighted, fraud monitoring applications, may be eligible for validation within the PCI software security framework. So, so I think I would say that more information on the eligibility can be found on the PCI Secure Software Standard Program Guide on the PCI website. Now, whether an entity is required to use software validated the software validated to the secure software standard is determined by individual payment brands mandates. So, and not by the PCI SSC. As you know that PCI SSC largely focuses on the development of the standard, as you just spoke a few minutes back, and we really do not get into the compliance. So now, if anything, any information that you would need about the requirements around from the payment brands for the use of the PA DSS validated applications, I think, or the how exactly these applications are going to get fed, I think you need to get contact with the payment brands directly, because they are the one who would be able to tell you how the compliance is going to run around these standards with respect to the each on the point of applicability of which software would get benefit of being using the PCI software security framework. Yeah.
Again, Nitin, that's a great answer. So I'll move on quickly to the next one, because we are running short of time now. So please excuse the hurry, Nitin. So thank you. Another pertinent question is, when must this payment software be revalidated? So what is the life cycle like? 1 year, 3 years? How will that happen?
So I think validation against the secure software standard have a 3-year expiration, similar to what you used to have in PA DSS. So further, the information on revalidation and the process for managing changes to the validated software again can be found in the Secure Software Standard Program Guide on the PCI website. So, nutshell, the answer is 3 years. So you have a validity for this for 3 years expiration.
Okay. Then what about for SSLC? For SSLC vendors, that will also be 3 years, Nitin?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so then what is this? See, we have discussed this a few times. So just to make it very precise, so then what is the PCI SSLC standard? So it is basically for the companies on secure practices. Just 2 minutes.
So one most important aspect of PCI software security framework, and a consistent issue highlighted in the recent compromises, is maintaining the good application security as changes are introduced, right? So the secure SSC standards helps achieve this by outlining the security requirements and assessment procedures for software vendors to validate how they properly manage the security of payment software throughout the entire software lifecycle. So the key security principles addressed in the secure SLC standard includes your governance, threat identification, vulnerability detection and mitigation, security testing, change management, secure software updates, and the stakeholder communication. So this provides confidence to the businesses using the payment application that their software vendor is providing ongoing assurance to the integrity of the software developed and the confidentiality of the payment data as changes occurs. So this is the sole objective of the PCI Secure Software Lifecycle Standard, which is Secure SLC.
Excellent. Thank you, Nitin. So the next one, how will the PCI SSLC be used for across the board? You know, there will be some companies coming under SSF, some companies coming under SSLC, and some companies coming under both. So how will this be used?
So PCI Secure SLC standard is actually intended for the software vendors that develop software for the payment industry. Now, validation against the secure SLC standard illustrates that the software vendor has mature secure software lifecycle management, which we've been talking, secure lifecycle management practices in place to ensure that the payment software is designed and developed to protect the payment transaction and data, minimize vulnerabilities and defend against the attacks. Achieving this validation also would demonstrate an understanding and commitment to those continuous changes throughout a payment application lifecycle that the vendor is going to make while they are developing the payment applications.
Okay, that's a great answer, Nitin. Thank you so much for this. And see, now this is a bit of a tricky question, Nitin. I really hope I'm able to articulate it very well. So, how will the PCI SSF standard impact the existing software vendors, the vendors who are existing on PA DSS framework, and those vendors who are planning to come new to the SSF? So how will this new standard impact them?
So
I hope I'm clear. Actually, this is the question.
No. I think how the SSF is going to impact the software vendor. So
existing vendors and new ones who want to get empaneled.
So first of all, let me highlight a couple of things here. So first of all, the PCI SSF provides vendors with security standard for developing and maintaining the software so that it protects the payment transaction and data, which we have been talking about, minimize vulnerabilities and defend against the attacks, right? The SSF also includes new methodology of validating software security and as a separate secure software lifecycle qualification for vendors with the robust security development practices. Now, secure software framework SSS, which is SSF SSS, evaluate vendors and their payment software products against the secure software lifecycle secure SLC standard and the secure software standard respectively. Now, PCI SSC is going to list both the SLC vendors, qualified vendors, and the validated payment softwares on the Council website as a resource for the merchant service providers and acquirers. Now, when PA DSS version 3.2 expires at the end of October 2022, so it will be formally retired and replaced by the SSF, which provides modern requirements that supports a broader array of the payment software types, technologies, and development methodologies. So in the interim, to help minimize the disruption and ease the transition process for stakeholders, the standards and program will remain available and fully supported until October 2022. So immediately there is no you can't look at as an impact, but there is going to be a continuous support available, a full support available on the PA DSS version 3.2 until October 2022, till the time the PA DSS version 3.2 retires.
Okay, so Nitin, the next question is something that even a few people have put up on the question book over here, question tab to me over here, is that then how then are the PCI security standard framework different from the PA DSS standard? So both are impacting products. I can understand about SSC because that's for a process. So how will PA DSS overall, if you can summarize, what is the key differences between PA DSS and SSF, not SSLC?
No, I think I will. I'll give you a brief answer to this, but I think we will be more talking in detail the differences
Yes, maybe in
between
the
the
next session.
PCI.
Maybe in the next one.
But
Yeah.
PADSS actually focuses on the software development and life cycle management principles for security in traditional payment softwares to help merchants
Right.
maintain the PCI DSS compliance. Now, the PCI software security standards expand beyond this to address overall software security resiliency. Now, the framework also provides a new methodology and approach to validating software security and a separate secure software lifecycle qualification for vendors with robust security design and development
Right.
practices. So, in other words, if I have to put it across, they're not mutually exclusive, but offers a progressive approach that allows for additional alternatives demonstrating the secure software best practices. So this is what I think. If I have to quickly give you a difference between what is the difference between PADSS and PCI software security
Right.
standard,
Right.
is
Right.
what I
Right.
have to
So
say.
maybe
But I
we
think
can
for
the
the audience
details.
interest, we are going to talk more in detail in our next session.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's because there are too many points actually, okay, we're running short of time anyway, so we'll just move on with it. So, you explained in this question before, Nitin, and you said it so well. How does it impact the current software vendors? So then, what about the service providers, the merchants, acquirers, vendors? What about the impact on them? How will the
I
standard SSF
think
and SSLC impact them?
so I think, see, rather than talking about the impact, I think we should impact is nothing. So it's a transition, right? And we are going to talk about the transition in our next session. But I'll quickly highlight the benefits that the merchants, acquirers, and vendors will get out of this. So for merchants and acquirers like PADSS, similarly, the program listing is intended to provide a way to easily identify payment software vendors who develop the payment software with the focus on security. Unlike PADSS, SSF not just for facilitating PCI DSS compliance, but also facilitates support for broader software security initiatives,
Hmm.
right? So it takes care of a broader perspective of a broader arena of the payment security. For the payment software vendors, it provides paths for validation and listing on PCI website, just like PADSS that we have been talking about. Uh, and obviously, we talked about the future expansion, addition of different modules. Then there has been an option for validating the software development management practices with a secure SLC. And both, we also talked about the time frame, how when it's going to get expired. Validation is for 3 years for both payment software and the secure SLC, and an annual attestation, right? So for the merchant's point of view, if you look at it, the SSF listing, merchants can take informed decisions about payment software vendors and products, because the software products are going to be listed on the PCI Security Standards Council website for the ready reference. They can have confidence in product design and maintained with the security in mind, capable of maintaining the resiliency against the new exploits that you see in the marketplace, may support the security of an entity cardholder data environment. Now, expands beyond PADSS for the merchant's point of view. It expands beyond PADSS to other payment software types. So it gives you an assurance for the broader range of software involved in payment processing. Now, talking about the vendors from the program perspective, the expanded program eligibility to better support evolving architectures and the deployment models, streamline the assessment process by allowing some vendors to self-assess, which we talked about secure SLC. They can validate their they can do a delta assessment on their software lifecycle, self-attest to certain changes, enabling some vendors to manage changes to their software listing. Now, from the standards perspective for the vendors, it provides greater flexibility for meeting the security requirements through the use of objective outcome-based requirements, right? Through the use of, when I talk about the objective, recognize some of the standards have conflicting software-related requirements that provides a framework where we can consolidate all these software security principles across the standards and programs. It also help you in minimizing the occurrence of contradictory requirements across different modules. So these are the quick benefits in comparison to what we have in PADSS and in the SSF. I think it's what the merchants, service providers, vendors, and the payment software vendors or merchant acquirers are going to get when they have the vendors have the software security standard being followed. Over to you, Naren. Hope that helps understanding on the benefits of.
Right.
You are muted. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. So this is the last question for the day. Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Right. So, Nitin, the last question for the day is: what is the timeline for transitioning from PDSS to PCI SSF standard? What
Yeah.
is the timeline for transitioning? So, okay, yeah, please go ahead, Nitin.
So there were two. There are two timelines. There are two timelines, transition timelines. One is already passed, which is of June 2021. So we have stopped accepting any new applications on PA DSS. Now the next timeline that we are looking at is October 22, where the standard is going to get retired. So the submission of the new payment applications for PA DSS validation is stopped completely. Which was we had the timeline of 30th June 2021. So we are now not accepting any PA DSS, new PA DSS applications to be listed onto the PCI website. Now, having said that, existing PA DSS validated applications will remain on the list of validated payment applications, and vendors can continue to submit changes as they normally would until the PA DSS program closes on 20th of, or probably in October 2022. And after that date, after that October 2022 date, that all PA DSS validated applications listing will move to the acceptable only for pre-existing deployment list. So there were two timelines. One already have crossed. We are waiting for the next, which is to retire the standard. But as I just to summarize, just to keep everyone up, we are not accepting any new application for PA DSS, but existing PA DSS application will get all support that is required for them to be there on the PCI Security Standards Council website listed.
Thank you, Nitin. That was a great answer. And for those, actually, Nitin, we had the good fortune of having Nitin for an earlier session where he speaks about the transitioning from PA DSS to PCI SSF. And I have posted our YouTube channel, in the comment section. And if you wish, you can go there, go to the playlist of PCI, and you'll see the PCI PA DSS transitioning to PCI SSF session that we conducted with Nitin. It went exceedingly well. I think that was done almost 6-8 months back, as I remember. So do go through it in case you are more interested in how the transitioning would happen. Nitin, let me just take up just one question. Actually, I understand we're running short of time, but let me just take one question over here. 1 second, please. Okay, so what the person is asking, let me just summarize, is that the informing to the customers that they need to change over from PA DSS to SSF. Is that being done by PCI Council, or will they have to wait for instructions from the schemes, that is Visa, MasterCard, before they begin the transitioning process from PA DSS to SSF? So that's a question that somebody has asked. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, see, the transition is something, is I think the vendors still have to start looking at it because the transition period has already started. So I already have highlighted that no PADSS new PADSS applications are now going to be accepted by the council for the listing. So it automatically defines that the vendors have to start reviewing their applications for PCI software security standards. So the transition has already started. They need to start reaching out to assessors so that they can assist them in basically moving on to the new standard, which is SSF.
Okay, Nitin, I just have to ask you this one more question. It's a really very interesting question, and I believe you have managed to excite the audience about the standards, the new standard that's being coming up. So somebody's asked a very nice question. If one has to start a career as an auditor to the SSF, PCI SSF framework, what all thing needs to be learned? What is the career path? So look at this. You made somebody so interested that he wanted to move ahead into the SSF framework as an auditor. So what is the path, Nitin?
So see, the interesting point is that SSF program is open to all. So anyone from the industry can come up and be part of this program. And if they want, they can set up a company and and they can become an SSF assessor. So the path is very open and crystal clear, and you can become an SSI and you can also take up the audits. So that's the short answer that I can give at this point. I don't want to be look differently at this stage. If he or she has this question, probably they can reach out to me on my email ID, which I'll just spell out: Bhatnagar at PCI Security Standards.org. Yeah. So that's my email ID. So very simple, short and sweet: Bhatnagar at PCI Security Standards.org. So you can drop me an email. I can help you out with that.
Yes, and Nitin, as always, a sweet guy, and he is given a very nice answer to that. But just to give, because we are also one on the SSF auditors, so there is a company that needs to be there. The company, so it's not that, if I might say this, the council just takes up any company and anybody to become an auditor. That is why there is so much value for these standards, and there is so much respect for the auditors. Basically speaking, the company gets empaneled first. So the council first authorizes the company. Okay, the council checks the background of the company, who you are, what you're doing, all. And then you have to identify people in your company who can get listed as auditors. Now, for SSF, you need to have a minimum 2 high-level standards like a CISA, CISSP. You can't just start your career. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pull you down, but just to be upfront on this. So PCI, you need to have a CISA, CISSP, CRS, a CSAM. So you need these high-level standards. At least 2 of them. Again, you can go to the program guide and see how it is, to what all list is required. There's a list A, there's a list B, and if you want to become even an SSLC auditor, there is a secure software lifecycle auditor, like even I am one of them. You even need to have a technical certification like a CEH or an OSCP or a SANS pen tester. There are so many others are there. So the pre-qualification requirements from the council is pretty steep to ensure, and which I agree with the council, that they want to ensure that the right people are doing with the right background. And believe me, it's not just having the certification. You have to fill a form which is very, very lengthy. It took me like a day to fill it, honestly speaking. And they ask you for particulars about everything. Who are you? What have you done in, say, software design, software testing, security control design, threat modeling, pen testing. What is your background? What are examples of career growth have you shown? So all these things are very detailed. How much experience in which area? So almost like 20-25 such elaborations you have to provide. After that, they authorize you to give the exam. That doesn't still make you an SSLC auditor. After that, they authorize you to give an exam. So after that, so it could be an instructor-led or a webinar online, training course, depending on your background. They allot to you. You give that course, you pass that exam, and then you become an auditor. So the PCI Council has kept the benchmark very high. Again, it's not like unreachable, but they want to ensure that the right people are there and the right backgrounds are there, and a lot of due diligence is done. There are a lot of heavy insurance requirements running into millions of dollars that is required. So so it is pretty interesting. Anyway, I hope I haven't spoken too much on that, Nitin. I hope that made sense.
That's pretty much fine. I think it's open to all. I can only say that it's open to all. So whoever meet the eligibility criteria, I think they should be. Yeah.
Yes. So guys, with that, we have reached the end. We are like almost an hour. The program has gone. It's supposed to be 40 minutes. So it has gone on for 40. It's gone on like almost an hour now. So please feel free to drop us your queries on askus@vistainfosec.com. ASKUS, ask us at vistainfosec.com. We'll take up your queries in the next session too, which is happening on the 18th of August. And since you have signed up, you'll have the first opportunity to sign up for the next session before it maxes out. And again, it will be free. So take care, guys. And again, my sincere appreciation to Nitin for being there, spending so much time for preparation and being there. 1 hour of his time is spent. And my deepest regards to the council for agreeing to send Nitin for this session to enlighten the people and to spread so much knowledge on this thing. So thank you again, Nitin. I look forward to the next session as much as the team is looking forward to the next session. So stay safe, my friend. Take care, guys, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.